This meeting is being live streamed on the YouTubes momentarily. Redirecting to YouTube. Here we go. We're live now, finally. Hey, Mags, GP, Elon's water packer. Nick is here. It's good to see you guys again. Nick, I know we're going to be without you for a couple weeks, but it's good to wrap up the year with you. It's hard to believe we've been doing this for a full year now, you know?
I'm ready for this year to be over, to be honest. On to a bigger and better 2023.
But isn't that when we go to zero?
2023 is when we go to zero?
Isn't that what we keep hearing? And
is that what Dizio's saying?
We are going to experience the most epic recession known to all of history.
No, I think we find a definitive bottom within the first quarter of 2023.
I think you've already found it. And they're gyrating between all of this stuff, right? Like, my personal opinion, but we'll see.
So you think we will not make new lows? Or do you think we will retest the old lows?
I think that's what October was, and now.
So no, you don't. Then you don't think we are.
I don't think we are.
All right. I'm staying in bearish bags camp.
Dude, we are down 58 cents on the Qs in 6 months. Everyone keeps telling me the end of the world is coming, but we've lost 58 cents since the June UPX to December UPX. Okay. 58 cents.
Okay. All right.
I'm just saying, right? Like, everyone's got bulls and bears and all this stuff. We've lost 58 cents.
Okay.
We're in a wait and see mode. I personally don't think we go lower, but I don't but everyone is expecting Black Monday, right? And here we are. And yeah, this can change by the morning. Here we are. We are not down 500 points in the NQs, and we are not selling off like crazy, right? Like, isn't that what we were supposed to all experience as soon as 6:01 p.m. happened today?
Well, you can look at the analog people, and they're going to say, yes, this is, a complete copy of 2007, 2008, right? Like, we've been hearing that for months. I've said this about Bitcoin. I've said this about other things. You tread water until you don't, and then you're fish food, right? And we're respecting this downtrend line. We can pull up the Qs. We're respecting this downtrend line until we get above that. Like, it is what it is, GP. Like, I hear you. I want to be bullish again. Make bags bullish again. All right. That's what I want to be, but I gotta call it like I see it, right? And
why is the trend line driven? So I gotta ask the question, right? Because a lot of people are doing this, and the trend line is driven from a peak that happened on January 4th, but not the all-time.
You can get rid of that line. Here, look, like we can just say the trend is down. All right, like, I don't care where you draw the line, whether it's smacking it or not. The trend is down. Until it is not down, it is down. And
it is sideways, right? So like so if you're looking at the first 6 months, yes, it's down, but we literally for 6 months have lost 58 cents, right? Like, I will say it again and again, because the trend in 6 months is literally up and down, and it's sideways, and it hasn't changed in 6 months. Maybe the 6 months prior to that were pretty damn bearish, but it has gone sideways for 6 months.
Until we take out levels to the upside, we're still in the downtrend. Like, you can say this is sideways. You can say that. From there, right? If you want to call this your spot, yes, we're sideways. But that is not reality of the situation. This is the reality.
We're still making lower highs, basically.
Yeah, but the March we actually made higher lows. Higher highs, right? Technically.
In March?
end of March, we actually made higher highs. Not from January, but from that pivot low, from the February 2nd high.
Bro, like I'm trying to keep up with that logic, but lower high, that's the higher high. That's a lower high. That's a lower high. This is a lower high. Lower low, lower low, lower low.
Yep.
Until that pattern changes, we are in a downtrend. Like you can call it whatever you want to call it, but I'm gonna keep it real.
You're not okay. So then you are saying I'm wrong and you're right, right? Is that what I'm understanding? Because the real part is that we've literally been sideways for 6 months, but that's okay.
No,
let's ignore that.
I said if you want to take that as what you're calling.
If it's not an if, it's the truth. We're 6 months. We've gone nowhere.
Is it possible that it goes lower from here?
Don't know.
But it's possible, right?
I'm in the trend. I'm in the trendless camp.
But it's possible, right?
I'm saying anything is possible. It's
exactly.
Literally,
so
the market.
we could receive another lower low.
Yeah,
we could break the trend and make a higher high.
You asked me if you make another low, I said I don't think so. But I'm also in the camp that it's been trendless. We can gyrate between 250 and 300 for the next 2 years until this thing resolves, right?
Absolutely. Sideways is a direction too.
Yes.
But if you want to count 6 months, then yes, we're 58 cents off of what we were 6 months ago. Right. But in that time,
if the downtrend is 12 months, we're in 6 months.
But we did make a lower low off of that 6 months, right? Like if this was the low, we already broke it once. So you can say we're flat for 6 months, and that is accurate, but we are still downtrending.
Okay.
Like I hear what you're saying, GP, but I just don't follow that logic.
I wholeheartedly disagree, because if it's a 2022 trend, right, you would assume that would continue to go lower, right? Not sideways for 6 months, right? We've been half the year of 2022 has been sideways.
I mean, you could say that from March to here, right? To August. You could say 6 months, we're sideways. And you're absolutely right. But what did it do? It broke down and went further lower.
Yep.
So you can make that argument if you want to make that argument, and it's valid, it's factual, but we're still going lower. Like it. Anyway, I don't want to belabor the point more. Nick, see. What say you?
No, I kind of, I agree with both, and like both. I agree. Like I don't think we've made any higher highs, and until we do, I'm in that basically the same camp. The trend is down. Yes, we've been sideways but I also agree we've been kind of sideways for 6 months. I would say that I'm in the camp that we're going to see another low, like a new low. Gut feeling.
I hope it doesn't happen. Remember, I'm wanting to be bullish.
I mean, when we had the conversation about Apple and Tesla, I think Apple and Tesla still drag the Qs lower. I think that's what is going to put us in that next leg lower. I still think Apple's heading back to basically let's just say 110 to 105 zone. And I think Tesla's heading back to basically the 110, 120 zone.
And this is my whole point though, Nick, right? Like,
yeah,
Apple broke down, Tesla broke down, yet we are sideways for 6 months. So
sure.
If we talked about this 3 or 4 months ago, if you told me that Apple was going to close under that 138 level and Tesla at 150, I can guarantee you everyone's like, Qs would have been breaking lows.
For sure.
Not sitting at 280.
I mean, if the thing is like 2020 to now is basically showing us that like it's going to play out how it's going to play out, and it's going to prove everybody right and everybody wrong, basically.
Well, that's the market always, but
For
like
sure.
if you don't like if you're not going to take a stance on where you stand on things, right? Like then it's fine, right? Because I understand that you have to wait for the levels to break, but you have to have a direction on where you think it's going to break, right? Like
For sure.
to make a trade, you can't just be like, oh, it broke, so I'm going to do this, right? Like it's not. You have to be looking for it, and you can be that simple about it, but you have to kind of watch, especially as you're trading. But to me, if you had told me that Tesla was at 150 like 3 months ago when it was at 300, right? In August, Tesla was at 331. If you told me it was going to get cut in half, and the Qs would still be at 275, I don't think anyone would have believed you.
Sure.
And that's my personal opinion. So that's why I'm like, to me, it's not down. There are things breaking down underneath. I'm not talking about individual stocks, just talking about the Qs here. And from that perspective, it to me it's sideways. There's no trend. If there's a clear break, cool. But what do they tell you about front running stuff?
You're gonna get run over.
This is yeah. We are at kind of a pivotal point.
Yeah. And you could argue that it's a bear flag, that it's going to break, but it hasn't broken yet. It's still the bear flag, right? It could be just an upward channel. It could be anything in this point where we're sitting sideways.
We're sitting on like a major trend line too that basically started
in
back
like
in 2010.
10 different scenarios, right? That it's a major trend line. Like there's a lot here that's going on. So to be like decisive that we're definitely going one way or the other, I'm just not in that camp yet, right? Like the last 2 weeks have been pretty awful, and there's a lot of individual stocks breaking down, like Tesla and Apple and stuff like that. So definitely more bearish on some of those names. But the Qs impressively actually held up. I literally thought we were going to give back the entire CPI candle and then some when Tesla and Apple were starting to break down, and we didn't. So I'm like, there's obviously strength showing up somewhere that's not those names.
Well, it's only 2% down. I mean, you've got that's a 7.5% from top to bottom there, right? Like that's what the weekly candle is on the Qs, from the highs to the lows, nearly where it closed, is 7.5%.
Yeah, and for 24
Just
straight days since the November CPI, we have gone sideways. And for the Qs, we had, and on Friday we retested that gap and held. Right, and so like there's definitely mixed signals. I'm not arguing that, but as of now, we tried to break into the gap and we actually ended up holding. We closed above the CPI low. Does it matter? No, because it's 2022. It could definitely gap down and die, but to me, it's still trendless, and I'll stick to that for now. And there's hints of bullishness because of the things that have broken down, yet the Qs have not.
I'm glad you're not bearish yet, because then like the shit's really gotten bad.
When I turn bearish is when the market probably goes.
That's when I flip. Buy everything. This is not financial advice.
I mean, like, yeah, it's what it is. Netflix. We talked about Netflix for the last couple of weeks. It finally couldn't break out and broke down, right? So
has there been a podcast that we've done that we didn't talk about Netflix?
I will talk about Netflix all year because it literally set the trend from the first call, right? So
yeah, it did. It really did.
I think we ended that call in January.
You scared the bejesus out of us, and boy, should we have listened in January.
But we ended that call talking about where Netflix goes, the rest of the market goes, right? And Netflix went down and died, and the rest of the market followed with it. It's to me, it's always been the kind of the bull market, bear market leader, right? So it was nice to see that kind of trend, but like it did break down, but now everyone's calling for Netflix to go below lows and hit 70 or 80, and And I don't know, like it held the 10-week moving average. There was a 10.
Who's saying
10
it's going
crossed
down to 70 and 80? I've not seen that. That's some crazy talk. I mean, it could happen, but that's crazy talk.
There's notable big names that are calling for much lower on Tesla Netflix.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah. But like, so this actually had the 10-week crossed over the 50-week last week's tip. It finally happened. So you have a bullish cross up. You have, to me, that looks like an ascending triangle, right? Everyone says it's a.
I mean, that lines up with 70.
Yeah, there's a big volume profile around there or something, or 80 or something like that.
Wowzers McTrousers.
Netflix.
I see big volume.
I mean, the
Like
people that are doing the
120.
best are pretty much people that I think are doing nothing.
What's that?
I said overall, the people that are doing the best are likely doing nothing.
I've never felt better about doing nothing. Honestly, like the last 6 months for me has been crazy. And what did I miss out on? 58 cents.
Now you want to talk about 58 cents.
No, I was being a smart ass. I love you, GP.
It's all good, man. Like, 6 months is not a trend. Only 12 months is.
I mean, it depends. We've talked about this before, right? It depends on what time frame you're trading, or what time frame you're investing in. And I think all those points are valid. We've also talked about not front running, right? We've also talked about like let it tell you what it's going to do, like buy the breakout, not the perceived breakout, or buy the breakdown, not the perceived breakdown. So, I don't know, just things that we've discussed on this YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And this is why this podcast is fun, because it's not just agree with Elon, right?
We're gonna have to talk about Elon at some point, aren't we?
I'd love an opportunity at Tesla 110, 120. As a long, even in a long term position trade.
It still
even
looks
if it
to me,
even if it went lower than 100, let's say it broke 100, I'd still never sell those shares that I bought at 110. I'd DCA down.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's before we started the call. I'm like, the lower it goes, the more happy you should be, right?
Yeah,
like,
totally. It's funny you say that. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, God, we should talk about that on the next call. Like, so many people are getting so fired up over this market, when it's like, dude, if you're under, let's just say, I don't know, you're in your 40s, younger than 40s, like you should be like ecstatic.
These are your buying opportunities for generational wealth.
Absolutely. Like
depends on what you're reading though, Nick, right? There's a lot of talk, especially among some of the main follows out there, about a 2001 to 2013 scenario, right?
Yeah, sure.
And in a 10, 12 year kind of sideways market with potential like a 2008 destroying dip, and like all that stuff is what's circulating in the media. So people can't seem to find the right answer, and the Fed doesn't know either, right? Like we keep talking about the Fed, but the Fed has no damn clue. These were the same guys who said they were never going to raise rates until 2023 or 2024, and inflation was transitory. And now they're like, we are going to destroy every possible market we can, and inflation is no longer transitory, right? So they're still trying to figure it out as well.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, part of me, I'm just gonna have a stream of consciousness here.
Oh, I like that.
Most of these companies have never been more profitable over the last 2 years, and now we are seeing mass layoffs, like thousands of people laid off at some of the most profitable firms, just because interest rates have gone a little higher. And they're still like, a lot of these earnings reports have not been bad. So it's not like all of a sudden Apple is not turning a profit, or Apple's not laying anybody off. So I shouldn't throw them in the camp. It's not like Goldman Sachs is no longer turning a profit. It's not like Amazon is no longer turning a profit, right? So like I don't know. Part of me feels like one big game with a lot of people's lives.
But that's the stock market. It's been that way for centuries, right? Like
no, not the stock market. Like, I'm just talking about economics in general, right? Like, of course, Goldman Sachs is laying off people to become more profitable, right? And that does have to do with their stock price and what they want their valuation to be. Like, I get it. But again, like I feel like it's games with people's lives at the end of the day. And I know I was taking this. We're coming full circle now to Elon. I know I was taking some heat last week by using my choice words of how I would describe Mr. Musk. But yeah, he's led Tesla, and again, this is not financial advice. This is not me saying that I do or don't like the stock. I just don't like the way in which he leads his companies. From gutting Twitter to the reports of how people have been treated at Tesla in the past. I don't respect that. Doesn't mean he doesn't make money. Doesn't mean he's not profitable. Doesn't mean he hasn't made a lot of other people money. That's a completely separate conversation. And Nick, you and I went back and forth a little bit on Wednesday, and you're going to call him Saint Elon. Well, he's not a saint. I know. I knew you were messing with me, right? But he's not a saint. And if the almighty dollar is what we're judging people's standards by, he's been great. He's the richest man, or was the richest man in the world. So awesome, but that's not how I look at the world. So
but he's vocal, right? So you get a chance to criticize him, not you specifically, but in general, right? You get to a guy who, I'm not saying he's a good person, right? I don't think any of these guys really are. Bezos, Gates,
sure. Ellison? I know there's layers to this shit, right? Like I realize. We've had this conversation in the past, right? When I said I'm done with Facebook, right? Because for whatever reason, I didn't like the company. I didn't like the vision. I didn't like the leadership. And I was very critical of Zuckerberg. So I can make those moral and financial decisions for me. I'm not making them for anybody else, but it doesn't change the stance of how I feel about them as person or as people. And we can point at Microsoft, we can point at Amazon. I know the diapers.com fiasco that you
the Mark Lowry with Amazon.
There's a lot of shady shit that corporate America or corporate world does. And I don't know. I sometimes they really strike me in the worst ways, and Elon's definitely in that ballpark for me right now.
Yeah, which is I'm not arguing for Elon or against Elon. I'm just saying, like, if we look back at the heyday of like some of these companies, like let's take a step back, and back in 2000, the heyday was Gates, right? And Gates was literally buying companies and shelving them so they wouldn't be competitors.
Right.
And Gates was doing he was a terrible person. He was a good CEO, but he was not a good person.
No,
it wasn't until Melinda started the Gates Foundation and forced him to shift his image is when, and you can still see the levels of douchebaggery from Gates even to this day, right? Like all the vaccine stuff, and then all like
I mean, Steve Jobs, who a lot of people hold up on a pedestal, that dude wasn't the most holier than thou person either, right? Like, I mean, I get it, right? And I'm not saying that there are completely ethical CEOs or founders or company boards. Like, I get it. There's not.
Netflix. Reed is a good person.
Well, let's just wait and see how long that plays out.
So Reed Hastings, like why I like Reed Hastings, and I'll just give you my little. He's obviously a billionaire. He's done really well. He treats his employees pretty damn well, and he actually makes most salaries of people at his company public. And he wanted to make them all, but his executive board actually stopped him from making all of it public because he wants transparency. He wants people to understand what they're making against their peers, women, men, minorities, all that stuff. So I haven't seen a lot of bad stuff about him. He's quietly just executing and doing his thing. And I
was being facetious when I was saying let's just see what about him. But my commentary is that there's a lot of bad out there, right? But there's a difference between jaywalking and murder, or jaywalking and terrorism, or jaywalking and there's difference in crime, right? Like there's layers, there's different colors, as opposed to breaking the law is breaking the law. And I'm not saying any of these companies breaking the law, by the way. I'm just saying there's difference in ethical conduct, and we all have those standards within us, or for the most part, see things a little bit differently in what our moral standards are. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and you remember like the heydays of the 80s when oil companies were so awesome, they were printing money and they were doing all this stuff. All of a sudden XLE and oil companies are back in the fold, like they're some saints. And no, ultimately they're just as, they're all bad, right, when it comes to money, because it's a zero-sum game.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I get it.
Everyone's respect for Buffett. You know what Buffett does? He comes into companies that are mismanaged, and he literally fires everyone.
Everybody. Yeah, no, like I get it.
Like they're all just, they're doing the best that they can, right? Ultimately, and
there's a good guy and a bad guy in every scenario, right? Like there's always a different take on who you think's doing right by you or who's doing wrong by you, right? Like I understand that. And if people like Elon for being Elon and all the things that he's done, like, hey, I put my politics out there. It's not it's fair knowledge. I'm pretty left. But I think the things that they're doing with the Twitter files is great. Like that stuff should come to the surface, right? Like I think that's things that the public should know. And I respect the fact that more information is being brought up about that. So it's not for me a left or right, but when you start pushing QAnon theories on the platform that you bought, like that's where I kind of got to hit the pause button on you.
Yeah, dude, he's out there. Yeah. And I think in general, not Elon, but in general, for the guys who push the world to change, and Jobs was one of them. He wanted things to change. He wanted them to be better. There's a lot of flack that comes with it, and there's a lot of missteps. But what I appreciate about people who make missteps is they're quick to change their thoughts.
And Elon put the poll out, right? Like, right. Oh, you want me to step down from Twitter? I mean, he said he was probably going to step down from Twitter anyway. He was going to have somebody run it, so this shouldn't be a surprise. But yeah, Elon, I think you should step down from Twitter. I voted in it. I said you should.
I got calls, so of course I voted yes. But
and I also am mature enough to understand that what my moral and ethical standards are that doesn't mean they should translate to you or to Nick or to Duzio or whatever else, right? Nor should they vice versa. If they align, that's great. I'm glad that we see the world in a similar view, but I don't expect you to have the same take or have the same feelings or thoughts that I do. Right? I understand that.
No, so I think there's like 5 levels to like this assholeness, right? That's just how I see it, right? So I probably put Gates at like the top level at 5, right? He's repaired his image over the years, but he was ruthless and cutthroat and a mean person. And like people don't remember it now because time heals all, they say.
Yeah.
But he was absolutely horrendous,
ruthless,
like just terrible. And Ellison was up there with him, and those the 3 musketeers, Ellison, Jobs, and Gates, that were the leaders of the original tech revolution. Those guys were not great human beings, right? No. And so like I go by levels, and the levels I can handle are 1, 2, 3, and when you're in 4 and 5, for me personally, gets to the point where I don't want to be involved, right? And
my last thing on Elon, like I respect what he's trying to do for the climate, right? Like the electricization of cars, I think is great. Not just cars, but homes, right? Like there's a lot of good being done there, and I get it, right? I think that's admirable. So I don't want to just say that something recently has happened to make me think the way I think about him. And people that you don't like can do good things. So Nick, I don't know. I know you wanted to chime in briefly about it, but I would.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I mean, like I said, I was just giving you a hard time just because I felt like poking you.
Oh no, I thought like before we started, you said you want to say something about the whole Elon, but that's fine. We can move on, and this is actually more non-TA stuff than we normally talk about here. But we were talking about Tesla, so there we go. Now,
so like we're talking about Tesla, though, right? At any point in time where Tesla finds a bottom, whether it's tomorrow or in a month from now, it's a hell of a buy, right? The question is can you dollar cost average down? For the long term, the stock is going to do really well with or without Elon, right? So I think that's what we're talking about. As a general consensus, we all agree.
Oh,
that,
yeah.
Which was
I'm with Nick. If it comes into 100, I think it's screaming buy, and then you dollar cost average in further down if you can.
Yeah. And the screaming buy started at 160, right? As soon as that kind of level, the 200 SMA on the weekly broke, it starts becoming a screaming buy, and it can accelerate for sure. It can hit that.
But you got this whole area here, right, from 150 down to 130, that you're still in this volume pocket that it could hold and bounce out of. So until something like that broke, it's not a given that it's going to 100. But now, if the market stays like it is, I say things continue to break down.
Do me a favor. Go back to 2013 to 2019 timeframe. Does that look familiar? Because to me, it's a more condensed version. It went from, I think, what was it, like 30 pre-split stuff to like almost 400, and then went sideways for 6 years.
Yeah, it could definitely go sideways.
Right. So
everything can go sideways. Sideways is a direction.
Yeah. And honestly, I think if he introduced, I know he's not going to because it's Elon, but if he introduced the dividend, the entire class of the crazy volatility that happens with Tesla would change overnight. It brings in a different investor base, the more stable investor base. These guys are like
So I would say this about your comparison to 2013 through 2019 though, GP. I feel like we're in a very different market environment. We didn't, I mean, this is not 2008, 2009, right? Tesla didn't exist then.
Yeah, it did. It IPO'd in 2010, I think, right? Post all the it IPO'd
post financial. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 2008, 2009, the great financial crisis and the rebound there. So if we are looking at situations where we have a massive drawdown anywhere near what we did in those days, I don't think this right here would be a familiar base to this potentially. Why can't my mouse work? To this, stop it. This right here. I mean, it could be. I mean, it might work out, but I just think the market conditions are different.
Oh, 100%.
Potentially.
But the company itself, right, is like, it's like, I'm pretty sure Q4 is not going to be great because of the federal credit, right? But January 1st introduces a federal credit back in the mix that it hasn't had since 2018 or 18, I think, almost 4 years plus. So you have a lot of catalysts coming forward in terms of what's so you might have a one quarter blip on deliveries, but I think overall it's still the best electric car out there.
I mean, when really you look at this RSI crossover here, those are pretty solid points to buy the dip, and we're pretty far away from any potential crossover to the upside. This is a monthly chart, by the way.
Yep.
I'll put a little heart on it. I like hearts. What do you think about a heart, Nick? You like a heart?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of Tesla, I looking at the weekly chart, I think the head and shoulders that a lot of people were kind of looking at is what's going to play out. And that's kind of the measured move is basically 120, in between 110 and 120. So for me, I'll just keep it simple and keep it at that.
I feel that.
I gotta get better at holding short positions. I gotta keep. I'm just gonna start. Every time I tell myself that, I putz with my position sizing, but I gotta get better at it.
You know where I struggle, Nick?
Yeah.
It's I struggle with where it's going to end up going. I like end up covering at support, but then it just crushes support.
Sure.
And I got to get better at realizing that it's 2022, that there is no support, right? There's just so like I get my trade and it does well, and then it would do like 10x what I did, and I'm like, son of a guy. But that's where I struggle with, right? It's just like, but I think that's also my bias, which is we're in a sideways market, so I don't want to get caught on the bottom end of that.
Yeah.
Bottom end of that sideways, and it's been pretty sideways. So like it's that's like, I think where it becomes inherently easier is if we do break that 255 level on the Qs, right? Then it's just a waterfall down.
Yeah. And
then the shorting just becomes a lot easier, right? And if we break that 255 level, it's not going to hold anything really. I think it gets just destroyed. And that's when I think where we get an opportunity to buy at the 164 COVID lows.
I don't think we go back to COVID lows.
I don't think we're breaking lows, so I agree with you. But I'm saying if we do, I personally think it's a 3 to 5 month destruction move.
Sure.
And that's saying something, considering people are just done with the markets in 2022.
Yeah. I would say somewhere probably around this 190 area would be like the oh shit moment.
Yeah, I agree. I could see it holding.
It's like 30% down from here.
Yeah, but I also thought we'd be, with where Tesla and where Apple are sitting at the moment, I honestly thought we'd be much lower, right? I thought we would have already broken 255. So, like, the fact that they're holding up here does give it more ammo to go lower.
Yeah. Apple and Tesla.
Like 138 is a level that is held on a weekly basis for last 2 years, and now, like, now that I broke this week during OPEX, you're looking at this chart and be like, oh wow, okay, that's what distribution looks like when it's the most held stock in the stock market.
Yeah.
Right, but it finally made that lower low. The one that, remember the one I was talking about last week? It was made a higher low by 1 cent. It did not care this week.
No, it did not. It was just an ugly last 2 days. Thursday and Friday were just horrendous.
Yeah, and the volume wasn't there, right? Like, it's such a weird, like, on the Qs. Like, for the move that the Qs had on Thursday, I was expecting this kind of, like, everyone that's bought in the last 3 months or 6 months of sideways just liquidating, right? And we didn't see that. So that was a shocker to me as well.
Yeah, Apple did have a daily low on the close, didn't it?
Yep.
Like it wicked under, but it's the lowest close since
Not since June, but yeah.
June 2022.
June 16th, no, though.
June 21st.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was on hefty volume, right? And most of that hefty volume was the last closing bar, which I believe was 55 million shares. Yeah, of the 160 million volume on Friday, 55 or 65 or something like that was in the last 5 minutes. So that quadruple witching stuff.
All right, we've talked about things that we don't like and things that we disagree on. What are some things we do like? Is there anything we like?
I don't know.
Because I went through the charts this weekend. I posted like, I don't know, 12 charts over at Charts for Charity. And I was like, that's enough. I'm done. Like, I don't even want to look at this shit no more.
I like Meta.
Do you? For a short-term trade?
Go to the daily versus the weekly.
Yeah, I'll get there.
So to me, like, this, I know it got upgraded and got rejected at whatever resistance zone, but
looks like the gap, yeah.
It's been acting relatively strong compared to the rest of the market. And if it breaks through the upside here, right, which has been the if statement all year, if it breaks through that 124.67 level or whatever it is, I like it for a trade higher, but it's in the short term, it's making higher lows and higher highs. So let's see if it breaks out or breaks down.
It's 2022 for another couple weeks. So I want to say it breaks down.
Yeah, it's possible. Shops in this big volume area as well. Like if you got the volume profile on, it has not been acting good the last couple of weeks after being strong, but it's in a pretty solid volume profile on the weekly, I think.
Yeah, it's a pretty strong weekly spot.
Yeah, so
I'd say
Shop is one to be paying attention to.
You've liked Shop for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, it's been acting strong. It's been holding technicals and acting stronger than it hadn't been all year, right? And once again, it's sideways. It could be in the top and bottom of the range for the next 5 years. I don't know where it's going to go, but it's been acting different recently.
Nick, you want to say something?
Oh, I was just gonna say, of what does look good out there, I'd say probably the solars look better than anything.
FSLR looks like a Head and Shoulders.
On what, the daily?
Yeah. After 100% move in
Yeah, it does look-
2022, a Head and Shoulders flashing. I'm not taking part in that.
Yeah, for sure. I see that.
All tans done's gone sideways for.
I was looking at the
years.
weekly charts, and I'm just thinking of what's out there. They look all right.
You know, also looks pretty good. Michael Burry stock. You guys, the prison stock. GEO?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the prison stock? It's like
GEO.
yeah, it was G something.
Relatively strong compared to the rest of the markets. Had like a low volume pullback into a big profile, like volume profile zone coming up.
What is this?
This is
Michael. At one point, I think this year, the only investment that Michael Burry had, the guy who called it 2008, short, was this prison stock. So it got on everyone's radar.
This is a private prison. This is a for-profit prison service. It's a REIT technically, but they maintain prisons.
Yes. You know, it looks good too. DocuSign.
No way. I haven't looked at DocuSign in I don't know how long.
They had a solid earnings and a solid reaction to the earnings.
That is a nice move.
Yeah.
See, that's what you want to see. I mean, in 2 weeks, that's nearly a 50% move top to bottom.
Yep. And the other one that looks good to me, could be a rounding top here, is Win.
I like Win. I haven't looked at the chart in the past couple of weeks, but I like Win.
LVS.
You like Las Vegas Sands, Nicholas?
I mean, it's pretty much gone nowhere in the last 15 years.
Yeah, but this zone for all these casino charts, if you're looking at them, Nick, going back like 25 or 30 years, they're all at that point where they keep getting bought and then they go up and then they come back to this point.
Yeah, for sure. I would just pull up the wins. I mean, yeah, what
that 84 level on Win has been bought hand over fist every 5 years or whatever its cycle is.
I mean, could MGM be the catch-up play? It seems to be the laggard of the bunch, or it could just be the laggard of the bunch.
Are online gambling stocks ever going to go? Are they ever going to catch fire again, like Penn and DK and DraftKings?
Let me remind you that this was a SPAC.
Yes, the DraftKings was a SPAC.
That's all I got to say.
Sure.
But that was not a SPAC.
And it's holding up better.
It is holding up better.
There's not much, right? Like after Thursday and Friday, everything looked like poop on fire, right? Like it was just, it's like, you know, when you're changing a baby's diaper and they decide to have round 2, right?
Holding up better's 77% off the highs to 83% off the highs. So meet kettle.
So you're telling me I'm right. Thanks.
Well, if losing only 7% makes you feel better, 7%.
Can someone tell me why Nikola is still worth $2.42 and had a massive volume week?
What?
What the hell is going on?
I forgot this even still existed.
I believe this company is still worth billion.
No way.
I'm going
to search that right now.
$1.16 billion is his value. They have not made anything more than the $36,000 roof that they did for Trevor.
1.16 billion market. You have got to be shitting me.
You should look at their institutional investors and you'd be even more shocked.
No, I'm not going down that
So,
rabbit hole.
Nick,
today.
I raise your question by one, and I want to know if weed will ever do anything besides what it continues to do.
Go down.
I'm telling you, this was maybe one of my top 5 trades ever. This weed trade here.
Yeah, I did too, and was it GRWG?
I mean, those were amazing calls right there. That was the last great day of 2021.
You know what looks good?
Tell me.
Caterpillar.
Yeah, DE looked good too, didn't it? Yeah. Those both look great.
There's been solid accumulation in this chart. It looks like it's flagging. Could be a rounding top because it's 2022.
It's either flagging or it's done. It's one of the two. I would just wait on the breakout.
Yeah. PACB.
Pack B. Now you're getting Kathy'd up.
It's holding pretty
What's
damn
the
well.
girl up to? I haven't even looked at old Kath lately. Looks like trash. Well, we see that bear flag played out.
I go through like the 52-week list almost every day, right? Like just to look at it. And every time I go through, I stop looking because it's mostly just SPACs, right? And they're making new highs or new lows by 1 cent or 2 cents. And it's just mind numbing to look at the list.
It is. That's too much. Oh, Kathy. It all went to hell when I bought the In Kathy We Trust mug. It all just went to shit.
Another one to look at is AGYS.
I mean, that was almost damn near the top. I bought that in January of 2021. That was damn near the top of Kathy getting that mug. I'm gonna sacrifice the mug to make Kathy great again.
Do it.
I will. I'll sacrifice the mug. What was the other name you said, GP?
AGYS.
AGYS. Wow, now that's a bullish chart. I didn't know these still existed.
And MAXR.
MAXR.
M is American.
Yeah, MaxR. Yeah. Whoa, mama. Oh,
I think they might have gotten bought out.
They got bought out?
Yeah, they got bought out. That's the reason for that.
17% in a week. Those people were loving that shit.
Damn.
Wow.
So we also always talk about XBI. So in the middle of the last week of death, XBI decided to do what XBI does and not die. It actually had a green week. Like it's all kinds of mixed signals in terms
but it's treading water.
It's definitely treading water, but it's not giving you direction to me. And every candle that I see where it's a blip, it's a higher volume, is a green candle on your chart here, right?
Private equity bought Maxar. Wow.
Private equity, from what I hear, by the way, has been going nuts on deals. Like I have a few friends who own businesses, and they are
just shelled out $6.4 billion for Maxar.
What was the other one that the private equity just bought? Thomas Capital or something bought some. Shit, I can't remember.
Private equity opens the checkbook to get deals done.
Well, they can't get anything else done, right? So
while the banks nurse losses.
The first half of 2022 was the worst start for bonds in nearly a century.
Thanks. I don't know what the last one was.
It just happened earlier in the week. I'm trying to find. I posted on it too. So trying to find it.
I'm looking. I don't.
Do you have any questions?
No. It's a slow night.
Yeah, well, after last week, I guess that's makes sense.
Toma Bravo bought Koopa.
Koopa, there you go.
Toma
Thomas
Bravo
Bravo.
bought Koopa.
Yeah.
8 Billy.
And then Horizon Pharmaceuticals got bought, and then the grill company Weber.
Weber got bought by private equity.
Believe so.
Yeah, Koopa went 26% higher. Weber Grills. Yep, big candle there. Well, big gap, I should say. 24%.
Yep, from BDT Capital. They got bought out.
I'm not going to be surprised when we see some other names continue to get bought up like that. Remember, I am long-term bullish. I'm just short-term bearish. I don't think we're going to zero, and I don't think we're going to cascade down to the gates of hell or oblivion. And obviously, by these major purchases, private equity doesn't think that we're going to do that either.
So if you go through the list of, I have the list of IPOs that come out. I put them into a separate list. I've been running it since I think Uber kind of IPO'd overvalued like crazy to see what happens to these companies over time, because I think they came in to cash out, right? Not to actually grow. And RKT was one of them, Rocket Mortgage or whatever.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Right. So like this is a company that started doing buybacks like 3 months into their IPO. And I'm like, why did you IPO if you have so much cash? Right. Like I don't get it. But as you can see, it was a cash out, right? And so a lot of these companies that came in way overvalued and have been just in a downtrend since IPO, these are the ones that have potential to get bought out because now they're at reasonable valuations.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. And so I don't know if you guys know this, something I discovered months ago, but I've been wanting to talk about it, but I always forget. Did you guys know that WeWork IPO'd?
Yeah.
No.
Sorry, SPAC.
Yeah.
An IPO.
Yep. There it is. There's your chart. They were getting out of this quicker than they could.
Yeah. But you literally can go through almost the entire list of IPOs in the last 5 years. They have gotten manhandled. It's just disgusting on what they've done. Oh, you know, another one that looks decent is Chewy.
Somebody asked me about Chewy the other day.
1, 2. It'd be like a 3-week tight.
Yeah, like I'm not saying it's going to go massively break out, but it stopped breaking down. Had a good earnings reaction. Adobe also had a really good earnings reaction.
It did, and that's mega.
It was a surprise.
That's a mega cap. That's a 3-week tight for you. 4 or 5, 6-week tight. Shit.
Now you gotta wait for 7.
Yeah.
It's either 3-week or 7-week. Ain't nothing in between.
Well, we'll see how it goes this week, won't we, gentlemen?
Yes. I think a lot of people are short coming into this week, so we'll see how this really plays out.
I mean, we're pushing into oversold levels too, so we're probably due for a bounce of some sort.
Yeah.
We held the November 10th. We've been holding the November 10th candle for 24 or 25 days so far.
6 months, 58 cents.
That's right.
Some of our announcements coming up. Nick is going to be on hiatus for a couple weeks, doing some stuff with the fam, and it's the holidays, so Nick will miss you. But with the holidays also coming up, GP and I made the executive decision that we are going to do live at market close this Friday, the 23rd, and again on the 30th.
That's right.
So the next 2 Fridays, you're going to get GP and I at the, you know what, GP, let's just like jump in maybe before the bell and then run through the bell. I don't know, maybe like the last 10 or 15 minutes or something. If you're good with that. No,
we can try. Let's see how well we
all right. Well, we will promise you at least after the bell we'll be on. We'll do some live charts. We know after the bell there's still a lot of people active and asking questions and stuff. So we'll be on for that. And GP, I've got a commitment from Cookie that he would like to join us, but it wouldn't be in our after the bell because that's really late or really early for him, depending on how early or late he's staying up. Okay. So maybe I'll connect with you later, but shout out to Cookie. Cookie, we can't wait to talk to you. It's always a pleasure. We'll have Cookie on at some point, either this week or next. So
I at some point in 2023, I want to be a spectator. Nick, maybe you do too, of you and Duzio talking about Elon for at least 5 minutes, right? Like I really just want to be there.
I would love to have Duzio,
but he doesn't exist. So.
But he doesn't exist. He's an algo, remember? So, yeah, the invite's always there for Duzio, and I would love to have the Duzio Nick connection because these are the two most cerebral algo thinking people I've ever met or not met on the internet in my life.
Yeah, I'm pretty far out there, I think.
And that's why we love you.
Thanks. Feels good to
be. We're gonna do the one trade before we sign off.
The one trade. We're
gonna do it, or the one thought, or one direction. Not the boy band.
Yeah, we can do what is for the rest of the year, for the week. Like, what are we doing one trade or one direction for?
Let's talk about the rest of the year because Nick won't be here.
Ooh, the rest of the year.
It's 2 weeks.
I think
7 trading days.
Yeah, I think we push into lows. I think we on the indexes. I think we push into.
Nick says lower.
250s.
Bag says lower.
I think higher.
I hope you're right, but I mean, I just don't think you are.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Qs, right? Are we higher or lower than 274.25 at the end of the year? That's the question we're asking, right?
That's the question we're asking. Yeah, we got there eventually.
I say we are lower than 274.25 to close the year.
I think we close above 300 for the year.
I love it if we do.
Well, I would too.
I'll buy.
But that's not fair either. You guys think lower, but would love it.
Well, I'm long. I'm net long, right? Like I have cash, but I'm net long. Of course, I want the stocks to go up. You act like this is a preference. Like I prefer it to be lower. I don't. I'm tired of being bearish bags. All right, gents.
All righty.
Knock down another hour. Hey, there was like a half dozen, 8 or 9 of you who were sitting here watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. As for that, Nick, have a great holidays, whatever it is you celebrate or don't celebrate. Enjoy the new year, and we will see you when you get back.
Sounds good.
Yeah, man. Enjoy your holidays. It'll be a good time.
You guys too. It's been a pleasure. It's been a good year.
It has been.
Looking forward to another.
Hoping 2023 is much better than 2022.
True that.